the first place I wanted to start was just a comment I left on a LinkedIn post that's picking up quite a bit of traction. For those of you that don't know, one of the strategies that I have on LinkedIn is that I comment on people's posts as a mechanism to test messaging or test an idea. And so I'll comment on a post, and then if that comment starts to get 20, 30, 50, 100 likes, then I know that there's something there. And conversely, if I say something and I get like 1 like or it doesn't get traction, I know that I haven't communicated in a way that resonated with people. And then I have to go, if I believe in that idea, I need to go back and refresh how I talk about it. And so anyway, I commented on a post today. It's at 63 likes so far. And the comment, by the way, I also love when the comment on someone else's post, my comment gets more likes than their post. That's a selfish thing. But it's the comments was, it's not about finding places where your competitors aren't. It's about being better in the places where your customers are. And so the post just in general was like, you got to find new places where, you know, your competitors aren't playing and go and explore that. And I just have a different viewpoint. It's like, it's very clear where your customers are and you just need to be the best inside of that. So G, wanted to give you a little opportunity to jam on that for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, that there's some good stuff in that. And the obvious downside of focusing on your competitors is, you know, I think I'll sum it up with a quote from Jeff Bezos. He said, "Why would you focus on your competitors? They're never going to write you a check." Point blank. They're just never going to do it. So if you like, you should be aware of what they do, but your strategy shouldn't be, well, you know, if I'm Drift, Intercom sucks at SEO, so we're going to do SEO. But it may be the case that there's not a lot of people searching for the stuff that's relevant. There may just be one hot term that everyone's all over, which is like chatbot and, you know, live chat and all that stuff. And there's like, you know, that industry probably has like 5 terms that are like really big, and then the rest of it is all top of funnel. So yeah, I mean, I agree with Chris's comment fully. You should be aware of what your competitors do, but you should never craft a marketing strategy based on, say, where, you know, a competitor is weak, because that may not align to where your customers are paying attention.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this last week, but a company called ProfitWell has a lot of data and did a study on something, and they published it, which was that companies that have that are focused on competitors from a product standpoint, however they measured that, I'm not sure, maybe in, you know, a survey or something like that, but those companies that are focused on their competitors from a product standpoint underperformed by more than 50% relative to ones that aren't. And so that's just another indicator that your customers, if you're closest to the customer, you're going to know what they want better than what your competitor wants. Like, you should be able to control your own destiny in that one. So I thought that one was interesting. And where are we going to jump right now? And so Trent, why don't you get us started? You had a good example. I think it'll be a good thing. And then we'll save kind of like some of the activities for later on.
Cool. I want to make sure that I repeat this correctly. So it's a little fish out of water experience for me. I've primarily done B2B work, and I know what's the difference between B2B, B2C. It's human to human, but it's a consumer SaaS product in a very niche creative industry. They have just under 1,000 signups with about 250 monthly active users, and 15 of those monthly actives are paying a $10 a month subscription fee. So my gut tells me that the playbook is pretty similar to everything else, and that co-marketing with influencers in the space plus producing a ton of content is going to be the way to go. And then getting that content into potential users' hands wherever it is they hang out. And like, for one example, like Facebook groups have pretty vibrant communities for this niche industry. But because of that, a lot of the attention's fragmented, and most of the Facebook community groups are run by product managers for other tools within the space. So that's kind of the backdrop for it.
Take it away, my man.
Yeah, I mean, I think you answered your own question there, Trent. Right? Like, you kind of know the answer there. You said it, that influencers and content marketing is the way to go. So, I mean, it's funny how you just kind of just backed your way into your own answer. I'm not sure how much more value I can add for you on that, brother.
Yeah, I mean, so a couple things. One is there's no way this is a paid strategy. Just given it's $120 annual contract value, and they have 15 paying users right now, so they're making $1,800 a year. If they got all of the people that use the platform to pay, they'd be at 120K ARR. And so I think there's two plays. I like the influencer move. I also like owning your own channel somehow through content marketing, organic. And then you're going to have to figure out where to play. Like Facebook organic's not going to be the way to get it done anymore. Instagram organic probably isn't either, unless it's a super visual product and you have a really strong strategy. But again, like there are times where platforms are really good to play in organic, and Facebook and Instagram are past their prime. LinkedIn and TikTok are the places where you would get a lot of traction. So you got to figure out which one would be better. It seems like TikTok would be a better place to be. Although I don't, just to be transparent, I don't have an account on the platform, and I'm not that knowledgeable on the dynamics of that platform, but most social platforms play about the same. And so that's one strategy. And then the second one is you gotta have some type of product led to move people from freemium into paid, like having a 1.5% paying user base is probably not a good place to build a business. So those are the two places that I would figure out.
Cool. Yeah, that's helpful. I was also curious from your perspective, G, on like building some SEO juice for the long haul as well, and differentiating. I know like one of the biggest SaaS plays for marketing plays for SaaS consumer is like the product comparison pages, right? So like product A versus product B, and like drilling really deep into that. Is that play overused now, or is it still kind of a viable run?
Yeah, comparison content is always great. And I think where you get the biggest bang for your buck there is, kind of blending paid and organic channels together to complement the effort that the impact that you're gonna get from your effort. Because the reality with a lot of the organic results for product A versus product B is that Google has now basically taken a stance against ranking vendor websites for these terms because of the great potential of, basically crafting bias content, right? So imagine Drift versus Intercom producing, a page on Drift. What do you think they're going to, how honest could that be? Now, in fact, I would encourage you to go check that out, because they actually have a very, very honest page where actually I think their strategy is the anti of what most companies do. And actually what they've done is they've right off the bat and at the beginning of the page, what they do is they give a compliment to Intercom. And they don't go thrashing, they don't go bashing, they don't go slander, they don't go lying. Like a lot of companies do cheap tactics where they talk shit about their competitors, and they lie. Straight up, they just lie. They just make things up. And what Drift has done is they've taken an opposite approach, and they've said, Intercom is a fantastic company. We would like to give a nod to our competitor for doing an exceptional job with building a fantastic product, and we acknowledge that they are a force to be reckoned with in our industry. However, here's how we're different, and here's how we'll make you understand whether or not Drift is the right choice for you. And then basically in a nutshell, what they explain is like, if you're more focused on service and support, Intercom is typically better of a choice because of reasons XYZ. And if you're in demand generation, sales and marketing, growing pipeline is like where your jam is, then you should basically give Drift a run, because we've made this specifically for demand gen, for marketing, for sales. So so in order to get a lot of juice out there, you need to create organic content, but also really the biggest juice is in paid marketing there. So, in my world, it's definitely bidding on like pricing terms. So competitor pricing, if you're Drift, you're going to probably bid on Intercom pricing, and that's where a lot of the juice is for that stuff. But it definitely comes down to thinking about the queries that are worth building content over, how to do it in an honest and ethical way that's not going to, actually turn your buyers off, right? If you come out thrashing and bashing, it's going to make you kind of look worse. So those are all the things to keep in mind there.
Yeah, and an interesting point there that G mentioned is that drift, that is called positioning. Like drift was like, if you need to do this, then use us. If you need to do something else, then use them, and give someone a clear choice as to which one is the right one for them. I try and do that with my company as well. It's like, if you want to hire a marketing agency and get a bunch of leads, like, we're not the one for you. If you want to build a function in-house over time and have success and have a core competency and build a competitive advantage, then you should do it with us. And so I feel like that was an interesting kind of like little tidbit in there, as well as helping people know when you're the right choice and when you're not, because you're not always the right choice, right? I think that's super interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. There's a good example of this also on, like, look at Rand Fishkin's new company, SparkToro, and go to their pricing page. He's got something pretty cool going on there. Now, he may be testing it. He may have changed it out, but I noticed that he had something called Ideal For in each pricing tier. So if, for this pricing tier at, whatever, $19.99, ideal for solopreneur, whatever. Next tier up, ideal for SMB companies, maybe small agencies. Next tier up, ideal for bigger companies, ideal for this, right? So ideal for is also another good way to help, shoppers, essentially make the right choice.
Cool. We got a couple questions in here. Also, for an exercise later, if anyone's in SaaS, could you drop in the name of your the large competitor, large legacy competitor inside your industry? We can use it. If not, I'll come up with one, but we can use it for an exercise later. So Ned's got a question. Ned, do you want to drop that question? It's interesting. It's kind of a follow-up on what we were talking about before.
Yeah. So we've seen some pretty major success in the paid Facebook play and content. We're in healthcare, and there's a new value-based payment model coming out where physicians are actually taking risk with the government directly for payment. But physicians don't have a ton of upfront money like some of these larger medical organizations do. We do have a high ACV product. Really, we are a monthly SaaS revenue type company, but our minimum is around $12.5 a month. And so my initial thought was product-led growth, providing a freemium type service to these physicians to use our analytics platform. And I was just trying to get your thoughts and kind of gauge on like B2B product-led growth right there, but it's a high ACV. Thoughts?
Yeah, so I think we'll answer it in two buckets. We'll answer it in your example, and then we'll answer it more generally. So in your example, the question I have is, what is the value metric that will scale? Like if they come in freemium, how are they going to scale into a tier? Is it number of users? Is it number of patients running through it? What is it?
Yeah, so it would be actual members that are using it. So patients.
Got it.
Yeah.
So I guess the question after that is like, how fast does it scale, right? Because if they want to come in and they want to add all their patients, they eventually end up paying the same thing. It almost needs to be like, choosing a value metric is not something that I'm an expert in, but I do have like a decent amount of understanding of it. Is like, it needs to be able to scale with the value they see of the product. And so if the value is delivered straight away at 12.5, then I think you kind of have to go at it that way.
Yeah. Okay.
But let's talk about it more generally, because product-led growth, high ACV, I know a couple off the top of my head that are customers of mine that makes sense. So Katana, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to recap on what the actual question is. I think I kind of lost
just
it.
general question. So what are your thoughts on product-led growth for a high ACV product?
Oh man. I'm just going to be 100% candid on this. I've never been at a company that sold a high ACV product, and I've never been in a scenario where a high ACV product had more add-ons through product features or improvements, or maybe new partnerships with another company to expand total addressable market. The best example I can think of is like Nextiva. We realized we were losing deals because we didn't have HD video as part of our cloud communication package. RingCentral, they didn't have it either, but long before they realized this was a problem, they partnered up with Zoom, and they started reselling Zoom in a partnership so that they could offer HD video to their customers. And one of our other competitors, 8x8, did the same thing. They partnered up with another company and figured out a way to get HD video out to market to their customers. So what we did was we realized, well, shit, everyone's partnering up with someone. What are we going to do? We got to find someone to partner with. And we realized there's a new player, there's a new sheriff in town trying to kind of compete. And that's good old Amazon, AWS. They're getting into SaaS now. So Amazon just came out with a product, HD video product called Amazon Chime. So we hit them up and we jumped on that. And we said, you guys are new in the market. You have a really credible brand. You're trying to penetrate into mid-market, which is where that's our bread and butter. It looks like a lot of the big boys in our industry are kind of going huge enterprise, but mid-market seems to be underserved. And we struck a deal with them recently. And now we offer HD video through Amazon Chime to our entire customer base. So that's really the only kind of example I like speaking on examples, and that's the one that comes to mind for me that I can speak honestly about. But in terms of like high ACV products, I just haven't really had that kind of experience. Like I've never been in a company that's sold, 50K, ACVs and stuff like that. So I don't know if I feel comfortable speaking on it, but that's the first thing that comes to mind from like a practical example based on my experience.
Yeah. So I think I saw some questions in there. It's like, what defines high? Let's just pretend it's 5K a month and up. So like at 5K a month and up, like a good example might to be looked at is like HubSpot. Like HubSpot contracts can get into the 5 to 10K ACV range with a lot of growth or a big company. But you can start for $0. The challenge is trying to figure out, if you take that strategy, trying to figure out the middle, right? And so my recommendation on your example would probably just be to stick with it. In the future, just as a side note, I feel like it won't be too long until there are self-serve checkouts in the 20, 30, 40, 50 ACV range. I'm actually pretty surprised that more companies haven't done that yet. And so looking forward to a couple companies that try and pave a new way with that model, which I think would be potentially a lot more buyer friendly and buyer centric. Cool. Let's see here. Okay. So Ashley's got a good one. So we'll just dive into this example, and then we got one thing we can circle back on. But one thing that I wanted to do, because Gaetano got to jam for a long time. I can't remember if it was last week or the week before, but you were doing all this crazy stuff in like SEMrush or whatever it was. And so I'm going to do another one, but on LinkedIn ads. And so we're going to
that'd be cool. Really cool.
Yeah. So we're going to take Ashley's submitted Jira. And so let me share my screen. And I had a couple examples pulled that would have been interesting, but we'll actually use a real example.
Look at those guys. You see Aircall?
Yeah, I'll do that one with you afterwards.
Yeah, they're spending mega bucks. So for everyone on the call, that's a competitor.
Okay, where is this?
Who I rock with.
Where are you? Oh, is that a product inside of a different company, Ashley? I think it's Atlassian.
Yeah, that would be Atlassian.
Yeah, so this might get a little bit messy. We might want to go back to the single product type of company.
If you need another example, maybe we can use a single product legacy company like a Vonage.
Yeah, I was thinking about actually going one of your, well, I don't know if Ring Central, but we could probably tear down something like that too.
Yeah. Ring Central now, and pretty much everyone in the space is moving toward, they basically, here's the deal with cloud communication. Everyone used to just sell business phone system. So cloud PBX, cloud phone system, shit like that. And now everyone's offering like this more unified communication bundle suite where you get message, video, phone together.
Mhm.
That's their new thing. We had a little campaign going where we were saying we're more than just a dial tone, which did well, more than just a phone system. Business phone system on superpowers, shit like that.
Yeah. So on any LinkedIn profile, you can go to the company page, you can scroll down here and you can click on ads and you can see what they're doing. It's funny because like almost every company running LinkedIn ads does the exact same thing. So this should not be, this should be
Now,
interesting.
do you
We'll
have
go
to
through
be
it.
do you have to be a premium user to creep other companies' ads, or?
No, I think it's some type of like data transparency thing.
Oh wow, okay.
Most ad platforms do this now. So ads, go in here and you can see all of the posts that they've been promoting. So this one,
Got nothing.
register for a webinar, right? Or a virtual roundtable.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's targeted for telehealth. So let's just see if we can get down to something a little bit more. Okay. The future of digital work. This looks like a white paper. Let's click on it. Okay. Another interesting thing, if you're running LinkedIn ads, is that it's going to pull the email that you have on your account. And 99% of people are going to have their personal email, not their business email in the account. So that's something to consider when you're running LinkedIn ads, is you're paying somewhere between $40 and $500 to get my email address of a personal email and potentially my phone number. And it looks like my company name and not even my title. So that's another trade-off on both LinkedIn and Facebook, is that you're going to mainly get personal emails and have to enrich some other way.
On the flip side of that, some companies don't mind it because you don't have to deal with the pain of, oh, this person changed jobs and now their contact info is no longer valid. Like that was a huge problem at Sales Hacker, which we actually never really got around to solving, because if you think about the industry, B2B sales, it's a revolving door for a lot of people. Salespeople, they don't last very long these days. And there's a number of factors that contribute to why that is. But essentially, we'd realize like every couple months that we'd have just a ton of just hard bounces from like broken email addresses that are no longer valid. Just want to throw that in there.
Cool. So this is a perfect example, and I'll go through and I'll dissect the ad, and then I'll tell you what I would do instead. Not that my way is the right way. It just gives you a different perspective, because this is what every company's doing. Okay. The annual average turnover rate of an agent in a contact center is between 30 and 45%. It doesn't have to be blah, 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 blah. And then empower your contact agents. And again, download direct email contact, because they need to be able to measure their lead and report back into that. Okay. So if instead, what I would do is the first one, I wouldn't be doing most of this on LinkedIn. I'd be doing it on Facebook, because the way that I do it is based on communication, not on leads. So I need to be able to do it at a lower cost. And so the average annual turnover rate of a U.S. contact agent, I would pull this one statement, and then that would become the headline of a Facebook ad. I would then pull the study and I would write a blog on the study, 4 paragraphs. Here's what the study showed. Here's why it's important to you, contact center person that we're targeting. Here's what it means. Here's what you can do about it. And then there's going to be a link, but it's going to be a link to a deeper piece of content, not to get a demo, not to go and check out the product. When we look at these types of things, this is cold targeted, which means that the people have not seen an ad before. They haven't been to your website. They may not know your brand. They are definitely not searching for Ring Central contact center stuff right now. So we're trying to educate them on a problem. And the problem is that there's a big turnover rate. Okay, so that's step one. I want in this execution for people that are managers or directors at contact centers to know that there's a big turnover rate. That's ad 1. Then from there, I'm going to go into this ebook, and there's 5 ways. And I'm going to write a blog on each of the 5 different ways. And it's, again, going to be in the same format, 4 to 6 paragraphs. Here's what you can do. Here's why it's important. Here's what you're going to need. Here's blah, 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 blah. And that at that point, it might be interesting to start to introduce the product. And so there are ways to break down communication so that you can deliver the information in a digestible way and help people get there. The challenge with this execution on LinkedIn is, one, I just think it's too expensive to be able to run. I mean, for Ring Central, they're throwing a bunch of ad money in the trash, so I'm not sure it matters to them. But for smaller businesses that are trying to be efficient and smart about what they're doing, you're going to end up paying $100 for someone to download this white paper, and they're probably not ever going to read it. And so those are a couple of ways that you could do it differently, I'm sure. And it all comes down to, can you target the people that you're trying to get to on Facebook? There probably are ways. It's just the question of how efficient and how narrow it's going to be. Am I going to get exactly everyone that I want, or am I going to, for every 3 people I get the ad to, I'm only one of the people are going to be who I'm going after based on how I need to target. But that is an example of how I would do it differently.
Yeah, I really like that a lot. It's kind of the anti big corporate play. And you kind of nailed it with, Ring Central. They're just dumping money, and it's because they can and they will. That's kind of the big corporate play.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of you said you would basically from each of those blogs that you would write, each of those 5 blogs you would write, you would send them into a deeper piece of content from there. What's an example of something like a case study, for example, or maybe something else?
Yeah. So let's just pretend that the contact center turnover rate's 30 to 45%. And then from there, you can decide if you want to be more creative and retarget people that clicked on that ad, or just run it cold targeted again for the next piece of content. I've always found that if you have a defined audience, there's no sense in retargeting. Just target everyone with every piece of content. And so, let's just pretend one of the ways to fix it would be to, implement a better, time tracking system. This is made up. It's obviously not a way to solve it, but implementing a time tracking system can lower your thing by blah, 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 blah. So now that the people know that there's a big turnover rate, what I would probably end up showing them is that piece of content where implementing a time tracking system can reduce your turnover rate by 50%. Okay. And then they would get that piece of content. And then the next piece of content I would serve them is blah, 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 big company that you're going to recognize the brand, reduce turnover rate by 45% with blah, blah, blah company name. And so that's kind of like the sequence of things, but it's not really a sequence. It's kind of just like continuous flow of information and messaging and ideas. And so you're just kind of always moving. And then because most people aren't going to see every piece of content that you put out. They're going to scroll by it. They're going to accidentally, pretend they're watching the video, but they're actually going to be talking to their kid. And so it's just over and over and over again while the execution works and while people are engaging, just keep feeding it with new content. That's kind of like an example of how I run it, especially on Facebook.
That's a really interesting perspective, and it's one that a lot of companies don't take. Actually, I don't know. I don't even know any companies doing that. Like, not even Nextiva is doing that. Because if I can just speculate as to why, is because it's too much work. It's too much work.
Yeah,
it's too much work, and it takes too long.
What do you think about it as the hard work?
Well, for one, to create, so there's a lot of things that come to my mind as like a content creator when I think about that whole play. Like, first is where are those stats coming from? What is the origin of those stats? Where is that data coming from? Is that made up? And I know that I saw a really interesting LinkedIn post the other day, really interesting, and I loved it. It was one of my favorite LinkedIn posts, like maybe ever. And I forgot who posted it, but I want to shake this guy's hand. But it was like 2 sentences. It was like, newsflash, buyers, or it was newsflash B2B marketers or something like that. It was like, buyers don't care about those shitty stats that you send them to try and create anxiety or fear. Period. And that was it. And I actually agree with that. Do you know how many times I see, 30% of demand gen marketers are struggling with this, or Dear Gaetano, as a demand gen leader, you must know how difficult it is to do XYZ. Did you know that 72% of blah, blah, blah? And it's just, every time I see those stupid stats, I'm just like, yeah, don't care. I know what you're trying to do. I know you're trying to get me to say, oh shit, I must be doing something wrong. I have to talk to you now. So that's like one problem with it. The other problem is, creating 5 separate blog articles. From my view, to create, I really try to strive for like, not contributing to the sea of sameness and averageness that exists on the internet when it comes to B2B content. Like my team, like we may work sometimes like 40 hours just on one blog post. And if you're going to create like 10x content, and I understand not everything can be 10x, but if you want to get it to as high quality as possible as you can, how long is it going to take you to produce 5 of those blog articles just for that one execution for generating demand with ads? And then obviously the big one, and when you get into a bigger company, this gets harder and harder. And we talked about this many times, but it's the classic, what's the attribution?
Yeah. And so when you're deciding to write, and this is an interesting one for people, when you're deciding to write, you need to choose whether you're writing a piece for SEO or for something else. And so like when I was talking about some of these pieces, like I can whip some of these up in an hour because it's 4 paragraphs and I understand the content. And so like a good writer can put these together in an hour. It's just about knowing what buyers are doing. And the second thing that's really interesting that I found out a while ago is if you have really good targeting. So for example, we were targeting respiratory therapists and we would put out a study that said like, blah, 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 32% of patients treated with this thing will experience this side effect. New study finds this. And then inside of the comments, there would be 50 comments of questions, of objections, of people cheering because our product was good, of people saying our product sucks. And all of that information then feeds the next 20 pieces of content. You can address every objection. So the next time someone says it, you can say, oh, here, understand that. Here's a link where you can learn more. And then literally send them off to a thing. And then you can then go and publish that. And over time, it starts to almost feed itself because buyers and customers are telling you what they still don't understand.
Yeah. I dig it. I mean, I personally have never tried this strategy. I actually am now. I'm curious to try it. To the point of like buyers telling you stuff in the comments. I think that can work depending on like what industry you're in. Like we run Facebook ads for like cloud communication, and like our targeting is pretty good. And we still get like our industry is just kind of like skeptical. It's a mix of like angry, pessimistic, skeptical people. Like they're scorned from like, oh, every company sucks. I've been burned by every VoIP company. Every phone system company sucks. Every communication company sucks. They don't care. And then I think they're also just a really confused bunch of people. So like, I remember an example, like, this girl from like our team was really big on like puppies and was like, I really want to try an ad where like we use puppies with like a phone system and like try to make it like something cute and different. And I was like, yeah, it's not really my thing, but let's try it. And like everybody was just commenting like, oh, what a cute dog.
Yeah. I mean, when you by design, when you run Facebook ads, you're going to get those types of comments. And then that also forces you to be able to manage that, because otherwise you're paying money for people to see ads with comments of people dropping memes of cows saying this is dumb. Right. And so that's a nature of that platform. It's gotten worse since I started doing this in 2015. In 2015, almost all the comments were legit. Like you could have one-to-one communication with buyers at scale. Not so much anymore. Another thing, just do want to get this in here. Sorry.
Yeah. Go for it.
Is that it works better when you have a disruptive innovation or a disruptive product. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, do you foresee like the plateau of Facebook advertising coming in the future? Like one example I'll share, and I know everyone on this hangout has seen this, but essentially, the ad of some dude in like a nice apartment where, he or she may even be, it's mostly guys saying like, most of the ads you see on Facebook start off with a nice car and a Lamborghini with models. I'm not trying to do that, going the anti-approach of, but basically there's a lot of like quote unquote business coach, life coach, coach for business coaches, coach for life coaches, the coach of the life coach. You see a lot of that kind of stuff. At what point does the oversaturation of the same shit like happening over and over again like kill the effectiveness of the platform.
Yeah. I mean, to be clear, the best days of Facebook ads are over. Like, it's just, the question is, what is the alternative? And so where is the better place to allocate your media dollars on the internet for the scale and the effectiveness? And there still just isn't a better place to do it. If you're going to try and find a better place, it's organic LinkedIn. And so if you're in social and you're running paid media, then Facebook still is the best place, because there's no other alternative place right now that has the same effectiveness relative to the cost. But to say that it is as effective as it was in 2015, definitely not.
Yeah, and that's a shame. That's a shame, because I feel like, I hate to put it this way, but like advertisers kind of did ruin it.
Yeah, and people have changed, like the dynamics inside of Facebook. I don't use Facebook a lot, but I watch a lot of people that use it. It's become more like group, like the main places groups. Like, I'm in a HubSpot partners group, and like most of my feed is actually posts from groups. It's kind of interesting. So the platform has changed a lot. People have migrated to other places. And so like in 2015, it was pure scale. Like, people that were under 40 were potentially starting to move to Instagram, but pretty much everyone lived there. If you were targeting B2B buyers, which is pretty much 30 to 60, like, you had the whole thing available on Facebook in 2015. It's just not that clear cut anymore.
Yeah, great point.
Cool. Yeah, that was fun. So let's get into some questions. We got a couple good ones. Floris, you want to drop your question? If this is in alphabetical order, he's not here anymore. Okay, he's not here. I'll read it. How many times do you keep sending viewers into deeper pieces of content? When do you insert the CTA to buy or demo? So Floris, if you set up your website in the way that most of our websites, we instruct clients to set them up, is there is always a big button that says get a demo in the top right corner, whether you're on desktop or mobile. And so it's always there. And so it's not that it's not inserting, it's just not that we're forcing someone in. And the reason that we don't like squeeze someone in on a landing page with no exit, the only exit is to go in a back button or leave, is because when you squeeze people in, that's going to play itself out. It's just going to play itself out once it hits your sales team instead of your marketing team. And so my preference would be, do we run case studies that have a get a demo button in there? Certainly we do. It's more on the intent side. Like, my mindset is not, I'm trying to drive a bunch of demos. It's, I'm trying to educate people. And if they want a demo, they can come and get one.
I mean, I agree. One thing a lot of companies I think are trying to figure out now are the free trial versus demo pickle. And
what's your thoughts on that? There's 2 or 3 companies I can think of that I work with straight away that are in that pickle.
Yeah. I mean, I know of, right off the top of my head, 3 companies that are in that pickle. I'm in one of them. I'm one of them, and then a couple homies of mine are also in that. And basically, it almost reminds me a little bit of the dilemma of when you're running ads. Do you get them to download something right there natively in the platform, or do you send them to a landing page? It's kind of similar to that. But basically, the catch-22 is, with free trial, it's softer. So the idea is that if it's softer, you can get more in. And then if you're really confident in your sales reps' abilities to do lightning demos, and the free trial experience is really awesome, and the product is really easy, and self onboarding is awesome, and your onboarding, your free trial onboarding experience, email flow is great. A great company actually that really impressed me is Loom, which is like a video screen sharing software where like you can give people feedback by recording your screen and talking your thoughts out loud as you're like, reviewing a landing page for your design team or something like that. So they have a really good flow, but essentially those are all like the things that come to mind with the free trial. And then the case for the demo is like, well, if that buyer is really, if you did a good job marketing, that buyer should be able to go right to get a demo, which, should be a VIP selling experience, high quality, customized, tailored to their certain business case, use case, business, whatever. and it should close really easily because you did such a good job marketing that they just went right for that get a demo button. Okay, the sales process was awesome. I didn't have to jump through any hoops. It was easy. They sold me. They showed me everything. They sold me without even trying. Like it just did its job and it closed. So, kind of chicken or the egg situation. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, sorry, I was actually preparing something for the next question. So you might have heard the little Slack thing going off in the background. So I actually don't know how to respond to that one. You caught me.
I mean, yeah, it's
I guess
all good. I mean, there really is no right answer, free trial versus demo. It's really test and figure it out.
Yep.
And you offer both?
There's a couple. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there's room for both. I think it's almost like you need to figure out when to use them. And then also just speaking with buyers, I like the idea of like, what if there was kind of like a blend, like I kind of brought up at the beginning, like why can't someone, why is it just free trial or demo? Why can't they just check out for the $12,000 a year online? And then you can skip the demo and skip the free trial and just get the customer. And so like, I think that a lot of companies have made that binary choice between free trial and demo because they're in the midst of recognizing that they need to be more buyer centric and get people into the product, but they still have a sales team. And so they're in this like weird type of middle space where they're like, okay, we still need to field the sales team and we still need to do this. And sometimes it's a really interesting kind of like thing, a lens that I look at a lot of companies, which is that they struggle to make full switches because they have infrastructure invested in whatever the old way to do something was. And so it makes it harder to like really pivot because you have this whole other arm of a company that you need to accommodate.
Well said.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, we got a cool question from Katie. Katie, you want to ask it? You hear Flores dropped off. You still with us? Cool.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciated the walkthrough of the ads from the content side. So just wondering, like, do you reserve LinkedIn or other social platforms primarily for content, or are you running product ads, and how are you sort of scoring your interactions before you end up serving a product ad in the funnel, or are you just not using the platform at all for that?
Yeah, so the short answer is we do run product ads. The two type of executions that we're working on right now is one, the carousel feature. So like 5 slides you swipe through. So the first one would be like an overview, and then it would maybe run through a couple features, and the last slide would then be learn more, which would then link them to a deeper product page, or ideally link them to a 3 to 5 minute either animated demo or a demo, like a summarized demo. As opposed to the get a demo CTA that forces someone into a sales funnel where they're not going to close. And so like trying to figure out how to replicate that without creating the friction of needing to schedule a meeting and go through with a sales rep or get a call from an SDR, I think is an interesting one. The second one that we've been doing a lot is depending on the platform. So on LinkedIn, it's going to be square formatted. On Facebook, it's going to actually be 4:5 aspect ratio, so slightly more vertical. The reason, and this is for anyone that's running anything on social, is use the most vertical real estate that the platform allows. And so LinkedIn right now allows square videos, but people still, whether it's organic or on paid, use a landscape video, which takes up less feed. And so someone's scrolling through, you want to have the most vertical real estate in that vertical feed as you can. And so 1:1 video on LinkedIn, or 4:5, which is slightly vertical on Facebook, which is somewhere between 15 and 45-second animated video that walks through a couple key value prop pieces of the product. A lot of people are going to want to put a logo at the beginning, like the first 3 seconds is a logo. Get into whatever's important in the first second, because you need to stop someone's thumb right there, or they're going to scroll right by it. And so like some of the things that I've done that have worked before are like, you can see in my organic LinkedIn, like a bold headline at the top, to something to just stop people, to get someone into the first second of the video, I think is important, because most people are going to scroll right by before it even loads. And And then at the end of it, of the video, link to, again, the same destination, whether it's either a deep product page that's focused on the feature that you're marketing or the overall product that you're marketing, or a 3 to 5 minute demo video. And then from there, you can continue the journey. So yes, we do use those. We use them in different ways. So testing new cold audiences, we'll run those. We do them sometimes in retargeting, but honestly, like I said at the beginning, like if you have a well-defined audience, there's really no sense in using a retargeting flow. In my view, if you have 50,000 people and all 50,000 people could see the ad and you want to give it to them, then just give it to them, especially on Facebook. It's such an inexpensive platform to do something like that. It would end up being $300 to hit the whole audience. And then the last thing would be on LinkedIn. If you're going to run them on LinkedIn, just to be more narrow in the targeting. So use Facebook for scale, and then use LinkedIn, whether it's seniority based or a different other type of targeting criteria, to narrow in the audience to some like more well-defined ICP. Right on, right on.
Thanks.
You got it. Happy
sweet.
to help.
Yeah.
Ashley, you want to ask that question? I'm not sure if you've asked multiple, but it's she's still with us.
I just had to unmute my audio. You might hear children's.
We do every week. No worries.
I'll get her to come say hey at the end. So when you're doing the content promoted ads, how are you balancing that with just your organic blog post shares on social? Like, are you creating any kind of sequence where it's going out on social first through the account and then as an ad? Because they're going to be going, like, you're hopeful that they're curious and they're going to be looking around for different things. So
G, you got any thoughts relative to blog distribution?
Yeah. There's usually like we have like a pretty big content promotion checklist when it comes to promoting blog articles. And some of the things that come like to the top of our mind is like we usually shout people out or get quotes from influential people to include in the blog. And then when the blog is ready, we hit them up and we say, hey, we featured you in this. Would you mind sharing it? So we do that. We link to certain websites that we also want backlinks from. And then we hit them up and we say, hey, we linked to you guys. By the way, we also noticed that there was an opportunity for you to link to Nextiva because of reasons XYZ. It would be really cool if you could do that or throw a link back at us. So we do that. We incorporate things that are relevant to specific ICPs in our email nurtures. I know Chris hates that word, but we have to do it, unfortunately, because we're just such a big machine.
I understand.
If it was up to me in a perfect world, I wouldn't do them, but I have to do them because we're just such a big machine, so we have to do it. In terms of advertising, so the way we promote blog posts on Facebook is pretty simple. We just straight up boost it. We create an organic post and then we just boost the post. And we just let that run, and we don't have any real like lead gen strategy with any of that. It's just purely to get the word out there, create engagement, get it in front of the eyeballs that matter, and then just let it ride. And then that's pretty much it.
Cool. So on the Facebook side, what I've been doing for a long time is, and preface it with like, posting organic on Facebook is essentially a waste of time. Even if you have 10,000 followers, you're going to end up getting 100 views because the organic reach on a company page is so low because they want you to buy the ads. And so like posting to just have something in your timeline, like might make the CEO feel nice, but it's really having absolutely no business impact. And so what we've done is we use paid on the blog or whatever we're distributing. Oftentimes it's blog content, driving people to the blog, and we'll run inside of that test. When we're spending more than $1,000 in media, we're going to end up doing several different variations of the ad, a couple different headlines, a couple different pictures, a couple different body copies. and we'll run that through the ads. And then the best performing from an engagement or a metric standpoint in the ads from a dark post will eventually you can go in, you can say, I want to move that post to an organic post on my page, and it takes all the engagement with it. So like we've had posts that get 3,000 likes through paid, and then we move it to an organic post, and all the engagement comes through with it. So on the feed, it looks nicer, because when you're posting stuff from your company page, basically the only value is having an archive of content with engagement on it that people can see. So that's how I would do it on Facebook. And from a LinkedIn standpoint, I wouldn't promote blog content on LinkedIn. It's just simply too expensive to do that from a paid standpoint. And from an organic standpoint, I think I see a lot of companies make the mistake of taking a link and sharing the blog through their company profile. And then I look, and their company has 974 followers. The post gets 67 views because none of their followers actually use the platform. And again, at that point, you're just like posting just for the exercise of doing it, not actually having an impact. And over time, I've just questioned a lot. I question any activity that you're doing just to check a box. It's like, what is the impact of it? And so on that one, I would figure out a different way to distribute it, whether it's through personal profiles or taking the blog content and taking one idea out of the blog and writing a post on it inside of the feed. So we're working on this on my company, is how do we do all the work inside of the feed so somebody doesn't have to go to the blog? Why isn't the LinkedIn feed becoming a new space for your company to blog on and not having a destination for someone to go to?
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why companies like HubSpot don't even have comments on their blogs anymore, because they've realized that, for one, it's mostly spam, and they don't want to spend all day moderating comment spam. And then, most companies have realized that the actual discussions are happening on the LinkedIn feed. That's the new blog comment, is the LinkedIn feed.
Hell yeah. So we had a question coming in before everyone kind of arrived. I was chatting with my guy Josh, and one of the questions that he had was, and G, I'm going to need your help on this one, but he wanted to try and provide some examples of a company that we think is executing really well from a demand gen or a content marketing standpoint. And so I have that one. I have a really interesting example that I point to that I think they're doing a really great job. And then also if we can find one as an example, there's plenty of ones that are not doing good. I'm not sure we want to, tear down a specific company, but we can find a way to kind of we kind of do it in our talks anyway, articulate some of the tactics that are not good. But I just want to show one, and I'd encourage a lot of people to take a look at it in more depth afterwards. Also how they I'll go through a couple different tactics. So one, let me just get to the company so you guys know. So it's called Profitwell. They sell a subscription management tool. So like would sit on top of Stripe and reduce churn and do things like that. But a couple interesting things about this company. The first interesting one is that at a previous job, I worked in the same building as them. So that's how I actually became aware of them. And the next thing is that they're 100% bootstrapped. So they've built this company without raising money, which I admire and I think is smart, and it forces you to build a smart business from the beginning. And the third one is that a majority of their marketing has been built on thinking about themselves like a media company, which is what I think most companies should do. So they're posting daily shows about the subscription economy, featuring companies that are well known that have a subscription. And so I think that I'm not going to go through the videos right now, but if you go in and see the videos and you see the style, like they have an entire media and production team in their office. They have a set. Their CEO goes on sometimes up to once a day and communicates something as if he was a news anchor. And so there's just like some really interesting approaches that they have right now that I think a lot of companies, especially if they had the budget and kind of like the ambition to do it, would get a lot of value from. The second one, which I think is super interesting, is that they do these videos where I'll give you like 30 seconds. So they have one of their shows on their thing is called the Pricing Teardown, and they'll pick companies and then they'll analyze the pricing page. So they've done it on Slack, they've done it on Salesforce, they've done it on a lot of different ones, and it's almost like I think a really interesting or maybe even a smarter way to do ABM. Like you're basically like they're trying to close Slack and they tear down Slack's pricing page with a high quality video and 5 tips of how they could make their pricing page better based on real data. And so those are a couple of the things that they're doing, which I find super interesting. And there's nothing wrong with looking at a company that's doing it well and then taking some of the things that you like. And so I've done that a lot. I take a lot of different things from B2C companies that I like, and then I move them or adapt them into B2B. I take companies take examples from B2B companies, whether it's how they do a landing page or how they do their request a demo page or how they run a social ad or how they built this like thing for their CEO to be a news anchor, whatever those things are. So that's one example that I think is, it's one that I've been watching really closely. I really like how they're executing.
I'm a huge fan of ProfitWell. I think they've been really, really good. For many years now, they've been actually pushing the limits of like what like content excellence is. And
for sure,
I think you nailed it. Like with the Pricing Teardown series, like that is stuff that people just really crave because it's rare. You don't see a lot of it. And it's hard to do because you have to have expertise in something. You can't just go around and copy everybody.
Yeah. And you can't just have 5 people cold call Slack all day. Like it takes expertise, it takes thought, it takes a real strategy. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, great example here. I mean, everybody should go and study ProfitWell. I would definitely recommend that for sure.
Are you pulling up an example? I know we were tasked with giving a bad one, but I'm not sure that we want to go that route.
Yeah, I don't mind doing it. So I don't mind. Yeah, I think it's a good way to close out. So we'll close it out. We'll close it out. So I'll share my screen if you don't mind, Chris. And
yeah, take it away.
And we'll get into a bad example. So this is the example. Yeah. Okay. So basically, this is a company called Fit Small Business. And as you can see, they absolutely have gotten crushed in 2020 by Google. They have absolutely gotten destroyed by Google because of algorithmic shifts that they were not able to keep up with and because of bad practices that has caused this to happen. And let's start breaking down what exactly is going on and what all these numbers actually mean. So in their prime, let me actually zoom in a little more so you guys can see this nice and clean. In their prime, which was September 2019, actually, let me zoom out because it has some stupid thing here that's causing me to not, I don't know what that thing is, but it's causing I'm not able to see like, I don't know why it has this database growth thing here, but anyway, so in September 2019, they hit their prime. They were in the top 3 positions in Google. They had 29,000 terms, organic ranking in the top 3 positions. And I can actually even click into this and I can see what their traffic value was. So $9.1 million of traffic value. So what that means is that if they were to have no organic traffic tomorrow and they had to pay for all the traffic that they're getting to their website from search, they would have to pay an estimated amount of $9.1 million a month to get that free traffic. And what that basically is calculated on is a score of cost per click. So what SEMrush is doing is taking the estimated cost per click of all the organic terms that they're ranking for, and algorithmically determining based on where they're ranking, how much search volume, what's the estimated clicks that they're getting, That's the traffic cost. That's the value of the traffic. Now, if I am going to fast forward to current day, let me do that and click. Ooh, wow. So their traffic value went from $9 million to $2.7 million. So over a third of their most important traffic was cut. They went from 30,000 ranking positions in the top 3 to 8,000. So quite painful. Now, how did this happen? They seemed to be on top of the world, like they were trending toward glory, and then they crashed and burned. So why did this happen? Well, I'll give you guys an example of why this happens. So the way that Fit Small Business makes money is they create content like this, where they go best small business phone systems 2020. And of course they hit you with an ad here and it says, visit Ring Central. No, I love wasting money. What does that mean? Why does Ring Central get preference for this pop-up? Why would a quote unquote neutral or unbiased company have a pop-up that goes to one brand out of all the brands that are listed on this page? Could it have anything to do with the fact that Ring Central is paying them a lot of money? Is there anywhere on this pop-up that discloses that this is a paid ad? No. So this is misleading practice, right? And I don't think they've learned their lesson. So they're doing stuff like this, which if a quality rater sees this, because Google does have quality score, manual quality score raters. So what that means is somebody that is hired by Google will go through, the web and just rate pages based on how poor or how good the experience is. So that's one thing. Now, scrolling through this more, this is the classic sort of the best small business phone systems 2020. They give you a bunch of examples here of like how business phone services work, what to look for, can a network handle a VoIP service, blah, 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 all these definition stuff, costs, all this stuff. This is all SEO filler stuff. And now this is where it gets into the nitty gritty of what people actually really want. And they have 6 companies listed here. Ring Central, Nextiva being another one, some of our other competitors here, and all this stuff, right? So the problem with something like this, which they have failed to recognize, is that if you are not the most powerful domain in the space, you can't rank by just having 6 choices. You actually have to have a lot more choices, because their domain authority based on backlinks, quantity and quality of backlinks, and just overall content quality is not enough to compete. So you can see what they're optimizing for, small business phone systems, best small business phone systems. Now, if you go and search small business phone systems in Google, you're not going to see them anywhere. And their whole game is SEO. Now you're seeing business.org, you're seeing Business News Daily, you're seeing how nuts this is. This is a new company that spammed their way to the top. You're seeing Inc., Jive, Ring Central, you're seeing some of the big boys, and you're seeing some of the other big players. Now, the reason why Fit Small Business is getting crushed is simply because, like, if I click on this Business News Daily example, let's check this out. Now, they have a different game. They have, look, and this is crazy. Like, this is how nuts the SEO game has gotten. So they've gotten 4 picks here, best picks, quote unquote best. And then you have this ad here with some content here. And now look at this huge wall of SEO text, huge wall 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 of FAQ SEO text. It's nuts. I don't know who reads this. And now they have more with super tiny font of Ring Central, UMA, 8x8, Grasshopper, and now they have methodology, and now they have want to learn more, all this stuff, related content, and now they have a huge list of all the business phone systems that exist here as kind of like an appendix. Now, even though they don't include them in the list, they have them on the page. So all these phone service providers for businesses are here listed. Now, what I tried to tell Fit Small Business a long time ago was if they want to improve that ranking, they actually need to adopt a strategy similar to this. Now, I'm not suggesting they go SEO spam like what this has become. Now, by the way, this is an 8,000 word guide. This is an 8,000 word guide. Who's going to read an 8,000 word guide these days? I don't know. Probably no one. But what they've done is basically they've put the CTAs at the top, which they want people to click because this is what drives money. This is all SEO bullshit. And voila, they rank because they have an 83 domain authority and Fit Small Business only has like a 50 something. So what I told Fit Small Business to do if they want to compete with this is, for one, they have to build a lot of links, which they're not doing. But more importantly, they have to add this sort of appendix FAQ section here. So this is the stuff that really leads to a lot of SEO gold, is when you have FAQ content like this. This experience sucks. We do it a lot better on the Nextiva website, but FAQs followed by like this sort of appendix style of listing the rest of the providers, even though they're not featured, is really the way to go. Now, there's other reasons why Fit Small Business got crushed, but that is one of the main reasons. And I think I'll conclude on that note. Maybe I'll pause and allow for some reaction from Chris and others. But this is the stuff I'm dealing with on a daily basis.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the question that at least I have, I'm sure a lot of people are thinking this, is like, why did it fall off a cliff, not fall gradually? Like, was there a big change in the algorithm, or like what happened that it was just like, boom?
Hey, Josie, you want to come wave at everybody?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought it was.
Yeah. So the reason why it fell off a cliff like that was because they were basically producing like a lot of spin-off low quality content. Like that six best business phone systems article was the same in every vertical. Best real estate software, top 6 best this, top 6 best that. Very cookie cutter, hamster wheel, purely doing it for robots. And they probably had some really low quality link building activity going on as well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it's a really interesting kind of like conclusion that's been going through my head recently, is that like there are no shortcuts. Like it actually takes work. And so I have calls with the $2 million startup company that, somebody told them that if they hired their outbound SDR firm, that they would grow like grass, or whatever the analogy is. And then they, 6 months down the road, they got burned. Like it didn't work. And so if it sounds too good to be true, you might get like a little bit of something, but it's over time, it does not play out. Like doing the right thing and playing by the rules and doing things that are good for your customers, I just think is always the right way to build a long-term sustainable business.
Yeah, agreed. Because you see what happens when you try to game the system and take shortcuts, you get crushed.
Yeah, and then you lose 65% of your revenue, or your traffic at least, overnight, and so therefore, if traffic goes down for that site, it also is somehow correlated with revenue, and so you lose 65% of your revenue overnight. And then what happens? Like, you got to let people go. You might have to move out of your house or sell your boat, or do something dumb like that.
Yeah, you lose clients because you're not able to get results for them.
Yeah,
like that's just a fact. Like, if it's a PPC program and they used to rank highly for those important terms, and now they can't because they got algorithmically hit, they're not going to generate revenue because they're not going to get clicks for Nextiva. We're not going to pay them for clicks. There goes their business model right out the door.
cool. So you got anything you want to close out on?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll just close out on something we didn't touch upon, but for the record, it's a hot time right now in the United States. And I guess I'll close out by saying, fuck racism, and let's stand up and do what's right. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it's a good place to end. So again, Gaetano, I'll speak for Gaetano and saying we like super appreciate and really enjoy getting to spend an hour with you every week. It really does, like, I'm looking forward to it all the time. I'm looking forward to next week. It's great to see familiar faces. We had one success story where someone's been coming to this every week, and 12 weeks later, he came in, started a podcast after week 1, did 12 episodes, and just got a job at a new company, was a director of marketing, just got a job for VP at a different company in 12 weeks just by building a podcast, doing the formula, getting active on LinkedIn, doing the work. And so that makes me feel good. And I would encourage any of you that have aspirations to do something, that there's a lot of information being delivered in this, that you could act on, or you could take, or you could send us a message if you want to learn more. We're here to help you. And so, yeah, looking forward to seeing you all next week.
Definitely. 2 things. Ashley, I think you had a special guest who wanted us to say hello to the group.
I am so sorry. I thought I was still muted, and I'm like, oh, I can just yell and she'll come and wave. But she did come and wave at all of y'all, but
Yeah.
she is otherwise distracted by cookies now.
That's a good reason to be distracted. And then the final thing is, I see a comment here from Cesar Cruz. I watch this video every Wednesday at 6 a.m. Where in the world are you that it's 6 a.m. and you're up watching our video?
It must be Pacific
cool
time, because this thing premieres at 9 a.m. Eastern.
Where are you?
I'm in Oregon. Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Oh, cool.
Hey, I'm in Oregon, but to be honest, I wake up at 4 a.m. every day. I'm just dude, I'm a psycho. And seriously, thank you guys for doing this. I, like the other guy you just mentioned, also started a podcast and have been trying to, it implements a lot of the stuff you guys are saying, and I love it. Posting on LinkedIn, getting even though like my the likes or whatever are in the double digits, not your level yet, Chris, but I got thousands of views on my profile just from that. So it's pretty nuts.
That's the
just keep working at it, right? You're not going to go from 0 to 100 at a time. Like, think about it more in terms of, are you getting better? Not just in the likes or the followers, but is the information that you're producing better? Are you able to better articulate? Are you able to be more unique? Are you able to provide more value than other people? Think about it more about, are you getting better? Because if you're getting better, then the engagement will get better by itself. So keep working at it, man.
By the way, I want to shout out. I wanted to shout out John and Dave have sick bookshelves behind them. That's very, and Ashley too, you got a very nice bookshelf. So very noble, very wise of you guys. Sorry, Cesar, I didn't mean to cut off your final thought there.
Cool. Yep.
I was just going to say, it makes people super uncomfortable too. When I call out the truth, when I mean, I think that's what I take from your posts, is that it's a lot of uncomfortable, elephants in the room kind of talk. And for sure, it's not for everyone. And then sometimes I'm like, should I post this? Fuck it. And yeah, sure enough, that's like the best kind of reactions I get.
Cool, man.
That's awesome.
Really happy to hear that. And so, yeah, for anyone that doesn't know, I've foregone like sending the recordings out via email. You guys get enough emails. I don't want to spam that, but it does end up on YouTube and on the podcast the next day after it airs. So if you guys want to like re-listen to a certain part, or like look at when we looked at Profit Well, you can watch it on YouTube, or you can listen to it on the podcast. Cool. All right, y'all.
Guys, have a good one.
Have a good night. Really good to see everyone.
Take care.
Bye.